Hello students. So today we will continue our NCERT chapter 8, which is aldehyde, ketones and carboxylic acids. Today is the theory part 11 and the section which we will cover today is 8.9.4 to 8.10. This is the disclaimer. Now, what is the objective of today's lecture? So, after attending this lecture, you will be able to understand the topics which we are going to cover today. So, today we will describe the important reactions of carboxylic acids. We will describe the uses of carboxylic acids. Now, for your reference, I have mapped the NCERT sections which we are going to cover today. So today we will cover section 8.9.4, which is substitution reactions in the hydrocarbon part. And we will see section 8.10, which is uses of carboxylic acids. For your better understanding of the concept, we will solve an in-text question, which is 8.8. And lastly, we will conclude with the summary. Okay, so let's begin with the section 8.9.4, which is substitution reactions in the hydrocarbon part. So if I talk about substitution reactions, then what are substitution reactions? So these are those reactions in which one atom or group in a molecule is replaced by another. So this becomes important because it changes the properties and behavior of the molecule. So we will see some specific type of these reactions. So carboxylic acids, they can undergo different substitution reactions in their hydrocarbon part. This means that part of the carbon chain, not just the functional group, they can be changed by replacing atoms or groups. So first type is halogenation. So in halogenation, a hydrogen atom in the hydrocarbon part is replaced by an halogen atom. Halogen atom like chlorine or bromine. For example, if we start with acetic acid and we replace a hydrogen with chlorine, so what we get? We get chloroacetic acid. So this is what is halogenation. Next type is ring substitution, which happens when the hydrocarbon part is an aromatic ring, like a benzoic acid. So here the atoms on the ring, they can be substituted often by groups like nitro or halogen atoms. Okay, so we will see the substitution reactions in the hydrocarbon part of carboxylic acids, which include both halogenation and ring substitution. So let's start with halogenation. So halogenation is a reaction, as I told you, where a halogen atom like chlorine or bromine is introduced into a molecule. So here we are focusing on how carboxylic acids, they can be converted into alpha halocarboxylic acids. So our main goal is to see how carboxylic acids are getting converted into alpha halocarboxylic acids. So first see that if you look at this reaction, then carboxylic acids, they can be converted into this alpha halocarboxylic acids. Now what do I mean by this term alpha halocarboxylic acid? So the term alpha over here refers to the carbon atom which is directly bonded next to the carbonyl group. Okay, so if you see, this is the carbonyl group. So this is the carbon which is bonded next to this carbonyl group. Okay, So the hydrogen of this carbon will be an alpha hydrogen. And we replace this alpha hydrogen over here by an halogen group. Okay, so this is alpha halocarboxylic acid. So when you react carboxylic acids in the presence of red phosphorus and an halogen, you get an alpha halocarboxylic acid. That is, the halogen gets substituted at the alpha position. So it is important to remember that for this reaction to work, the carboxylic acid must have at least one alpha hydrogen. So important thing is there that alpha hydrogen should be there. Okay, this means that there needs to be a hydrogen atom which is attached to the carbon which is next to the carboxyl group. So without this hydrogen, the halogenation cannot take place. So the actual halogenation, it involves treating the carboxylic acids with chlorine or bromine, and we use red phosphorus. See, over here we have used red phosphorus. So this red phosphorus is used as a catalyst. So what does this catalyst do? So these catalysts help speed up the reaction, but they do not get consumed in the reaction. Okay, so this is essential for the reaction to proceed efficiently. So the halogenation specifically occurs at the alpha position, which is the carbon next to the carboxyl group. This means the halogen atom replaces the alpha hydrogen. As I told you that this is the alpha hydrogen, so this halogen replaces the alpha hydrogen. Okay, so this selectivity is what makes this reaction quite useful. Now this entire reaction which we have discussed, what is the name of this reaction? So you need to remember the name. This is Hell-Wohlert-Zelinsky reaction. Okay, Hell-Wohlert-Zelinsky reaction, which is often abbreviated as HVZ reaction. Okay, so this is a very classic method in organic chemistry for introducing a halogen atom at the alpha position of carboxylic acids. So you need to remember this name. Okay, that is Hell-Wohlert-Zelinsky reaction, abbreviated as HVZ. Now students, we are going to see the mechanism of Hell-Wohlert-Zelinsky reaction. Okay, I told you that from carboxylic acid you get alpha halocarboxylic acid. But how is the mechanism happening? So one by one we are going to discuss this mechanism. So if you look at step 1, it is the phosphorus reacts with bromine to form phosphorus tribromide or PBr3. So if you look at the equation, you have 2P, that is red phosphorus. Okay, so P here means phosphorus. When it combines with Br2, which is bromine, you get phosphorus tribromide, which is PBr3. Okay, so this step is important because PBr3, it acts as a catalyst and it helps activate the carboxylic acid for the next part of the reaction. So notice here how the reactants, they combine in the ratio 2:3 to produce a product. Okay, so step 1 is the formation of phosphorus tribromide, which is PBr3. Now coming on to step 2. So in step 2, if you look at this particular diagram, this represents the step 2. Now one by one we will discuss what is happening in this step. So in first part, the lone pair of electrons on oxygen atom, they attacks the phosphorus atom. Okay, so if you see over here, this oxygen which has the lone pair, it attacks this phosphorus atom. So this is an example of a nucleophilic attack. Okay, in this what happens, a region where extra electrons move towards a region that can accept electrons. So this oxygen has extra electrons, so it can donate this extra electrons and it move to the region where this phosphorus can accept electrons. Okay, so this help activate the molecule for the next stage of the reaction. So when this oxygen with its lone pairs attack on this phosphorus, one bromine leaves from here. So you get this compound. Next, what happened? The bromine which has left from here, this bromide ion, it attacks this carbonyl carbon. Okay, and it forms this tetrahedral intermediate, which is temporary structure. And if we look carefully over here in this tetrahedral intermediate, the carbon atom is bonded to 4 different groups. One is this Br, one is this OH group, okay, one is this OPBr group, and one is this part. So here in this tetrahedral intermediate, the carbon atom is bonded to 4 different groups. Okay, so in second step, the Br, the bromide ion, attacks this carbonyl carbon to form this tetrahedral intermediate. And next, finally, this tetrahedral intermediate collapses, leading to the formation of acyl bromide. This is acyl bromide and POBr and HBr. Okay, so this means that the original carboxylic acid has been converted to acyl bromide, and we got the byproducts, which is phosphorus oxybromide, okay, and hydrogen bromide. So if you look over here, this tetrahedral intermediate collapses. Okay, that is this Br takes this hydrogen and you get carbon double bond oxygen, and this O double bond PBr leaves from here. So you get acyl bromide. Okay, and you get HBr and phosphorus oxybromide as byproducts. Now we will see next step of this mechanism. So we will see here what is happening in step 3. So in step 3, in first step, the carbonyl oxygen is protonated. So this is the carbonyl oxygen and this oxygen is protonated. Okay, so this carbonyl oxygen is protonated, means that a hydrogen ion, that is H plus, attaches to this oxygen atom of carbonyl group, which makes it more positively charged. Okay, so this increases the reactivity of the molecule. Okay, so see over here, this oxygen of the carbonyl group gets protonated over here. Okay, so this oxygen now has a positive charge. Further in step 2, the bromide ion, this removes the alpha hydrogen from the molecule. Okay, so the carbon which is next to this group is the alpha carbon and this hydrogen is the alpha hydrogen. So the bromide, okay, this removes this alpha hydrogen. So this leads to the formation of an enol. So this is an enol. So this leads to the formation of an enol, which is a compound with a double bond. So this is the double bond and an alcohol group. So now this enol, it is a key intermediate that allows the halogen to be added in the next step. Okay, so in step 3, there is protonation of carbonyl oxygen and this Br minus, it abstracts the alpha hydrogen and leads to the formation of this enol. Now further continuing with the mechanism, next we have step 4. Okay, so if you look carefully what is happening in step 4, then there is attack of enol on Br2 molecule. There is loss of proton to form alpha haloacyl bromide. So first there is enol forms. Okay, the enol that forms of the acid, it attacks the bromine molecule. So this enol, it attacks this bromine molecule. So this enol is just a different form of an acid where the hydrogen has shifted, which makes the molecule more reactive. So this attack allows the bromine atom to be added to the alpha carbon, which is the carbon next to the carboxyl group. Okay, So when this enol with its double bond attack on this bromine molecule, so this helps bromine get attached at the alpha carbon. So this is the alpha carbon and bromine get attached to this alpha carbon. Okay. In next step, there is a proton is lost from the molecule, which results in the formation of alpha haloacyl bromide. Okay. So that means we have successfully introduced a bromine atom at the alpha position. Okay. So next step, there is loss of proton, and you can see you get finally alpha haloacyl bromide. Now further continuing with the mechanism, the next step, there is attack of H2O molecule on the carbonyl carbon to form a tetrahedral intermediate. And then this tetrahedral intermediate collapses to form alpha halocarboxylic acid. Okay. So in step 5, the first step is a water molecule. This is a water molecule and this attacks this carbonyl carbon. And this forms a tetrahedral intermediate, which is a temporary structure where the carbon over here is bonded to 4 different groups. Okay. So remember that the carbonyl carbon is specially reactive because of the partial positive charge, which makes it a target for nucleophiles like this water over here. So in first step, there is attack of H2O molecule on the carbonyl carbon. Finally, step 2, this is this tetrahedral intermediate over here, this collapses, which leads to the formation of alpha halocarboxylic acid. So this is the final product of the reaction where you see a halogen atom is attached to the alpha carbon. So this step completes the transformation and finally we get the product, that is alpha halocarboxylic acid. Okay. So this is the final step of the mechanism of Hell-Wohlert-Zelinsky reaction. So I hope the reaction is clear to you. Step by step, we proceeded from a reactant to the product. Now we are going to discuss about ring substitution reaction. So this is section 8.9.4 where we will study substitution reactions in hydrocarbon part. So first see that the aromatic carboxylic acids, they can undergo a type of reaction which is called electrophilic substitution on the benzene ring. So in this process, what happens? An incoming group, which is called an electrophile, it replaces a hydrogen atom on the ring. Okay, so electrophiles, they are species that seek out electrons. And if I talk about benzene, then benzene ring provides a region of high electron density for this to happen. So now first of all, you will see that the carboxyl group, this is the carboxyl group which is attached to the benzene ring, this plays a key role over here. So now we know that this carboxyl group is a deactivating group. Okay, being a deactivating group, it makes the ring less reactive towards electrophilic substitution. Okay, so this carboxyl group is a meta-directing group, which means it influences where on the ring the substitution is more likely to occur. So if you look at this particular figure, you will see the resonating structures of benzoic acid. And when you carefully look at the structures, you will see positive charge on ortho and para positions and not on the meta position. That is why it is also meta-directing. So if we focus on this carboxyl group, it deactivates the benzene ring. Now because of the structure of this carboxyl group, this pulls the electron density away from the ring, which makes it less attractive to electrophiles. Okay, so this, because being an electron withdrawing group, so it withdraws the electron density from this ring and making it less attractive to electrophiles. Now this withdraws the electron density from the ring. Now the important thing to notice over here is that the effect isn't same everywhere on the ring. That is, the electron density decreases more at ortho and para position than at the meta position. So if you look at these resonating structures, you will see that the positive charge is pronounced at ortho and para position. So that is why the density decreases more at ortho and para position. In other words, we can say that the carboxyl group makes the ortho and the para positions less reactive. So what happens? The meta position becomes the preferred site for the substitution. So incoming group, it comes and it prefers to get attached at the meta position. So the overall result is that the electrophiles, they are directed to the meta position of the benzene ring. Okay, so this is an example of how the structure of a molecule determines its reactivity and the outcomes of the reactions. Okay, so what you can conclude that the electrophiles, they are directed at the meta position on the benzene ring. Now we are going to look at the examples. First example is converting benzoic acid, this is a benzoic acid, into meta-nitrobenzoic acid. So when you treat benzoic acid with concentrated nitric acid, which is HNO3, and sulfuric acid, which is H2SO4, you get meta-nitrobenzoic acid. So the important thing to note over here is that this nitro group, it attaches to the meta position of the benzene ring. So if you see, this NO2 is meta to this carboxyl group. Okay, so this NO2 comes and attached at the meta position. Okay, so this is happens because carboxylic acid, it directs the new substituents to the meta position. Next, we will see example 2, which is again converting a benzoic acid into meta-bromobenzoic acid. So here we substituted NO2 group at meta position, and here we will substitute, and here we will place this bromine group. Over here the hydrogen was substituted by NO2 group, and here the hydrogen is substituted by a bromine group. Okay, so again if you see that this bromine, it attaches to the meta position. Okay, so these reinforce the idea that the carboxylic acid group is a meta-directing group in electrophilic substitution reaction. Okay, so whenever a carboxyl group is attached, you will see that this group is a meta-directing group because the electron density is more at meta position compared to ortho and para position. So the incoming group will come and attack at the meta position. Okay, now we will look at one important thing, and that is aromatic carboxylic acids do not undergo Friedel-Crafts reaction. Okay, so this is an important thing to note, that they do not undergo Friedel-Crafts reaction. Now Friedel-Crafts reactions are a common way to add groups to a benzene ring. Now if we see the reason that why is it happening, so the main reason is the carboxyl group. So the carboxyl group, which is the COOH group, is attached to the ring. This group is a deactivating group. That means it pulls the electron density away from the ring. So as a result, it makes the ring less reactive towards substitution reactions. Okay? And another factor is the catalyst which is used in the Friedel-Crafts reactions, like aluminium chloride, which is AlCl3. So if you see over there in this diagram, you see that this catalyst, which is AlCl3, this actually bonds to this carboxyl group instead of helping the reaction. Okay, so see over here how it bonds to this carboxyl group. So the presence of both the deactivating carboxyl group and the bonding with the catalyst, it further deactivates the ring. So this double effect explains that why the aromatic carboxylic acids do not participate in the Friedel-Crafts reaction. Okay, so you need to remember that aromatic carboxylic acids do not undergo Friedel-Crafts reaction because of the presence of this deactivating carboxyl group and the catalyst like AlCl3. It bonds to this carboxyl group, which further deactivates this group. Now we will solve an in-text question, which is in-text question 8.8. So which of the following, which acid of each pair shown here would you expect to be stronger? So here you are given these four questions, okay, and you have been given each acid, each pair of acid, and you have to tell that which one is more acidic, okay. In first one, it is CH3CO2H or CH2FCO2H. Next, it is CH2FCO2H and it is CH2ClCO2H. So our first one, if you'll see, here a fluorine group is attached. Here there is fluorine and here there is chlorine. Here if you see, the position of fluorine is switched. And next you have this CF3 group which is attached, and here it is CH3 group that is attached. So I'll give you some seconds to think, and then we will continue with the solution. Okay, so moving on to the solution. First pair which we have is CH3CO2H or CH2FCO2H. Now if you carefully focus on these groups, then what you notice, what is the difference between the group? So if you carefully see, then the differences between the methyl group and the fluorine atom. Now, if you see in first one, that is CH3CO2H, you have a methyl group. So a methyl group, which is CH3 group, this group is an electron donating group. So if it is an electron donating group, that means it pushes the electron density towards the rest of the molecule. And this property affects the acid behavior. So electron donating groups like the methyl group, they show the effect which is called as plus I effect or positive inductive effect. This means that they increase the electron density on nearby atom through the bonds. And I hope you all know that more electron density can make it harder for the acid to lose a proton. Okay, so to acid to be a stronger acid, it should easily donate its proton. But if electron density is more, it make it harder for an acid to lose a proton. So because of the methyl group that donates electrons, it actually destabilizes the conjugate base. Okay, and how is a conjugate base formed? When an acid loses a proton, we get a conjugate base. So this methyl group, it destabilizes the conjugate base, and this extra electron density makes the conjugate base less stable, which in turn makes the acid weaker. So the presence of this methyl group, it decreases the acidic strength of CH3CO2H. Okay, in other words, I can say that this acid is less likely to donate a proton compared to an acid with a group that pulls the electrons away. Now if I talk about the next acid pair, which is CH2FCO2H. Here you have a fluorine group. So a fluorine is an electron withdrawing group, which means it pulls the electron density away from the rest of the molecule. Okay, so this is just what is opposite effect compared to the methyl group. Now the electron withdrawing group like fluorine, they show minus I effect or negative inductive effect. This means that they reduce the electron density on the nearby atoms, which make easier for the acid to lose a proton. So by pulling the electron density away, the fluorine stabilizes the conjugate base that forms after when an acid donates a proton. Now, a more stable conjugate base means that the acid itself is stronger and it is more likely to give up its proton. So, the presence of fluorine, it increases the acidic strength of CH2FCO2H. Okay? So now if we finally compare both of them, so we can conclude with this that because of the presence of fluorine atom, which is a highly electronegative, so it pulls the electron density towards itself, and when it is close to the carboxylic group, it stabilizes the negative charge on the conjugate base when an acid loses a proton. So it makes easier for CH2FCO2H, which is this one, to donate a proton, and thus it is increasing its acidity. So finally, I can conclude that CH2FCO2H is a stronger acid because of a presence of a fluorine atom near the carboxylic group, which is making it more acidic. Okay? Now we will see the second part. Now in second part, if you see, what is the difference? So when you compare CH2FCO2H and CH2ClCO2H, both of these carboxylic acids with a halogen atom is attached to a carbon next to carboxylic group. So in both of them, you will see that this halogen atom is attached to a carbon next to the carboxyl group. So main thing is over here, difference in this halogen atom. So our goal over here is to figure out that which halogen makes the acid stronger, fluorine or chlorine. So now the key factor here is the inductive effect, which depends on the electronegativity of the substituent atom. Okay, so electronegativity, it is a measure of how strongly an atom attracts electrons towards itself. So the more electronegative substituent, the more it pulls the electron density away from the acid group, which affects the acidity. So both the compounds have their halogen atom, which is either fluorine or chlorine, which is attached close to the carboxylic group. Now this proximity means that the inductive effect will be strong in both the cases. Okay, because in both the halogen atom is placed at the same position. But the type of halogen is what makes a difference. So if we compare the two halogens, which is fluorine and chlorine, so fluorine is more electronegative than chlorine. Okay, because you know that as we go down, that from fluorine, chlorine, bromine to iodine, the electronegativity decreases. So fluorine is more electronegative than chlorine, which means it pulls electrons even more strongly. So this difference in electronegativity will influence the acidic strength. So because fluorine is more electronegative, so it creates a stronger negative inductive effect, which is called as -I effect. So this effect pulls the electron density away from the carboxyl group, which makes it easier for an acid to lose a proton. As a result, the conjugate base formed after the acid loses a proton is more stabilized when fluorine is present compared to a chlorine. So this stabilization makes the acid with fluorine a stronger acid. So to sum up, we can see that CH2FCO2H is a stronger acid compared to CH2ClCO2H. Okay, the higher electronegativity of fluorine leads to a greater inductive effect, which increases the acid strength. Now we will see the third part. In third part, now look at the question carefully. Here we have two acids, okay? In both, now the halogen is same. In both, we have fluorine as the halogen. But one with a fluorine atom is attached to the first carbon in the chain. If I consider this at the first carbon, then fluorine is attached to the first carbon. And in this fluorine is attached to the second carbon. So over here you have to pay attention where the fluorine is located related to the carboxylic acid group. And this is what will influence the acidic strength. So the key concept here is the inductive effect. So this effect describes how the presence of an electronegative atom like fluorine, it can pull the electron density through the molecule. Okay? But you need to notice that this effect gets weaker as the distance between the electronegative atom and the carboxylic acid increases. So this is a distance dependent effect. So if we see further, when an electron withdrawing group such as fluorine is closer to the carboxylic acid group, which is COOH, it has a stronger negative inductive effect, which is -I effect. This means it pulls electrons away more effectively, which stabilizes the conjugate base, which is formed after the acid donates a proton. Now, because the conjugate base is more stabilized, the acid is more likely to lose a proton, which makes it a stronger acid. So, the closer the electron withdrawing group is to COH group, the stronger the acid becomes. Okay? So, this is a direct result of the inductive effect. So, if we look at these two compounds, the fluorine atom is closer to the COH group in the second compound. Okay, so if you see over here in the second compound, this fluorine is close compared to this compound where fluorine is far away from this carboxyl group. Okay, so this means that the second compound will experience a stronger inductive effect, which leads to a greater stabilization of its conjugate base. So therefore, we can see that CH3CHF, CH2CO2H is a stronger acid where the fluorine is closer to COOH group. Okay. So this is a stronger acid. Lastly, coming to the last part, which is the fourth one. Here you have two benzoic acids. Okay. First one with a trifluoromethyl group at the fourth position and one with a methyl group at the same position. So if this is first, then 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a trifluoromethyl group which is at the fourth position, and this is a methyl group which is also at the fourth position. Now, if we talk about the methyl group, then this group is an electron donating group, means it pushes the electron density towards the rest of the molecule. Okay, so we call this as +I effect or positive inductive effect. So this effect, it stabilizes, this influences the stability of conjugate base after the acid donates a proton. So if you see over here, this is donating the electron density to this ring. Okay, so because the methyl group donates electrons, it increases the electron density on the conjugate base. So when this will lose an proton, it will form a conjugate base. So this methyl group is increasing the electron density on this conjugate base. Okay, and higher electron density can make a conjugate base less stable. Okay, more stable the conjugate base, stronger the acid, and here the conjugate base is becoming less stable. So by increasing the electron density, the methyl group actually destabilizes the conjugate base. Okay, this means that the acid becomes weaker since it's less willing to give up its proton. So we can say that electron donating group decreases the acidic strength by making the conjugate base less stable. Now, let's see the second one. In second one, we have a trifluoromethyl group, which is a CF3 group. Now, this is opposite of CS31. Okay, this is a strong electron withdrawing group. That means it pulls electron density away from the rest of the molecule, and we call it as -I effect. Okay, so because of this CF3 group, which pulls the electron density away, it decreases the electron density on the conjugate base of the acid. So this is important because a lower electron density makes the conjugate base more stable. Okay, a stable conjugate base means a stronger acid. So by stabilizing the conjugate base, the trifluoromethyl group, it increases the acidic strength. Okay, so in contrast, the methyl group is an electron donating group, which makes the conjugate base less stable and acid weaker. And this trifluoromethyl group, it stabilizes the conjugate base, making it a stronger acid. Okay, so finally we can conclude that 4-trifluoromethyl benzoic acid is a stronger acid. Okay. Now we will see the uses of carboxylic acids. So first we will talk about methanoic acid. Methanoic acid, which is also known as formic acid, it is widely used in rubber, textile, dyeing, leather, and electroplating industries. For example, if I talk in rubber industry, then methanoic acid, they helps coagulate latex, which turns it forming a liquid, which turning it to form a liquid from a solid rubber. Next, we will have ethanoic acid, which is also known as acetic acid. Now, this is commonly used as a solvent, and it is the main component of vinegar, which is used in food industry. So see how a simple organic acid can have both industrial and household uses. Next, we have hexane dioic acid, which is also called as adipic acid. Now, this acid is crucial in making nylon 6,6, which is a strong synthetic fiber used in clothing and industrial materials. Okay, so the chemical structure of hexane dioic acid allows it to link with other molecules to form long durable chains. Next, we have esters of benzoic acid. So these compounds, they are used in perfumery because they have pleasant fragrances. Okay. We have another one, which is sodium benzoate. So this is used as a food preservative to prevent the growth of bacteria and fungi in acidic foods. Okay, so this is a good example of how it keeps our food safe and fresh. And lastly, we have higher fatty acids, which are used to make soaps and detergents. So these acids, they react with bases to form soap, which help remove dirt and grease. So carboxylic acids, they are not just important in industry, but they are also in our daily hygiene and cleaning products. Okay, so this was it. Now let us summarize whatever we have studied in today's lecture. First, we studied Hell-Wohlert-Zielinski reaction. So in this reaction, a carboxylic acid is converted into an alpha halocarboxylic acid. Okay. So this reaction involves treating a carboxylic acid with a halogen like chlorine or bromine in the presence of red phosphorus, which acts as a catalyst. Okay. So the halogen here is represented as X2. So X can be chlorine or bromine. And the red phosphorus, it helps the reaction proceeds efficiently. So it is important to note that this reaction only works if the carboxylic acid has at least one alpha hydrogen. That means the carbon next to the carboxyl group must have a hydrogen atom attached. Okay, so without this hydrogen, the halogen can't be added at alpha position. So if you look at this reaction carefully, you have carboxylic acid. When you react with its halogen, which is X2, in presence of red phosphorus, you get alpha halocarboxylic acid. And this is Hell-Wohlert-Zielinski reaction. Next, we talked about electrophilic substitution reactions. Okay. So we saw that the carboxyl group is both deactivating and a meta-directing group. So a deactivating group makes the benzene less reactive towards electrophiles. Okay, so the carboxyl group, it pulls the electron density away from the ring, especially at ortho and para position, making these positions less likely to react. So because of this carboxyl group, this decreases the electron density at ortho and para position. So it makes these sites less reactive to incoming electrophiles. Okay, so as a result, the reactions, they are less likely to occur at these positions, and they are more likely to occur at meta position. Okay, so to summarize, I can say that the carboxyl group, it directs the incoming electrophiles to the meta position of benzene ring. Okay. Next, we discuss about the uses of carboxylic acids. So they are widely used in food industry. They act as flavorings to give foods a sour taste and as a preservative to help prevent spoilage. Okay. For example, acetic acid is found in vinegar and citric acid is used in soft drinks and candies. Next, we see that how carboxylic acids are important in making soaps and detergents. So fatty acids, which are long chain carboxylic acid, they react with bases like sodium hydroxide to produce soap. Okay, and this process is commonly called as saponification. Next, we have carboxylic acids. They are crucial in pharmaceutical industry. So they are used to make medicine such as aspirin, which is a derivative of salicylic acid and which is a type of carboxylic acid. Next, finally, we saw that carboxylic acid, they are used in the manufacture of polymers like nylon 6,6. So these polymers, they are made by linking together the molecules that contain carboxyl group, which results in a strong flexible material which is used in clothing and other products. Okay, so to sum up, carboxylic acids, they are essential in food, cleaning, medicine, and as well as in material science. So thank you students for your attention. I hope this lesson was helpful. Thank you so much.